So the role of women in the church is also a sore point for many Catholics. Today, Catholic women are gathering in Chicago for the 35th anniversary of the Women's Ordination Conference. Organizers will screen the film Pink Smoke Over the Vatican, a documentary about Catholic women who are defying the church hierarchy by being illicitly ordained as priests. Joining us live from Chicago, the film's director, Jules Hart, and Judge Sheila O'Brien, who favors the ordination of women in the church. But first, let's get a small view of Pink Smoke Over the Vatican.
In another century, I'm sure I would have experienced physical violence as a result of my choices.
We probably would have been burnt at the stake centuries ago.
All right, so Jules, let me begin with you. Jules Hart, one of the filmmakers here of this documentary, of this film. So give me an idea what the message here was. You wanted to show that the ordination of women as priests is courageous, if not also potentially dangerous.
Absolutely. Many of these women have lost their incomes. They've been tossed out of their spiritual communities. They've lost their spiritual home. It's a very, many of them have been excommunicated, which for them puts their immortal souls in danger. And
so this has been, I guess, a contentious issue for a very long time. Many in the Catholic Church who have said, we'd love to see women play a larger role in the hierarchy. We would love to see women priests, but of course, the vast majority of the Catholic Church is saying, no, that's not going to happen. So why do you believe that, or is it your hope, I should say, that your film is going to change the minds of anyone?
I absolutely hope it changes the hearts and minds of people. I hope when they see this, they will see the antiquated reasons for keeping women out of the priesthood. And I hope that maybe the hierarchy will take a look at this and also realize that women can change the church.
Okay, so that is also at the core of the Women's Ordination Conference taking place in Chicago, the 35th annual one. And so, Judge Sheila O'Brien, let me bring you into the picture. You're there attending the conference. Do you feel that there is this groundswell of support for the ordination of women in the Catholic Church that resonates beyond this conference?
Oh, it definitely does. Ask people in the pew, and people are ready for change. And there are so many people who want to help this church in crisis. There's married men, there's women, there's men who used to be priests and who left. And these are people who want to help God's people. So we need all hands on deck at a time when the church is in crisis. And if you ask the person in the pew, they're ready for change. Also, most of us over 50 are used to having women in the church. The nuns taught us, they ran the orphanages, they taught us how to make our first communion. They are the people who schooled us in our faith. So we're very used to having wonderful women at the helm.
So you wrote a very strong, opinion page, and you said, you're a devout Catholic, but at the same time, you're almost pleading with the Catholic Church to excommunicate you, but because you were at the very core, very frustrated with this and the cases of pedophilia within the Catholic Church. So the question kind of remains then, if you are so frustrated with the Catholic Church, why not just leave the church as opposed to, I guess, encouraging the church to excommunicate you?
Well, by virtue of our baptism, we are in the church. We are in God's people. So it's impossible to leave God's people. But this is my home. This is my spiritual home. This is my family, my community. It's very hard to walk away from your family. And so many of us are hopeful that change will come. It may be long in coming, but people are ready for it. And it's not enough for all of us to complain. We have to be the elements of change. When this came to me again, I said, you know what? I've got to do something. It's not enough to complain. I've got to be the person of change. So I went online and found change groups, the Women's Ordination Conference and others, and got out my checkbook and said, I'm going to help bring about change in my church. And I hope that others in the pew with me will say, it's time. It's really time for us to take an active stand about what we want to see our church be for God's people.
So, Jules, yesterday in Great Britain, as the Pope is visiting Great Britain, he shook hands, actually, with a female priest. Yet, the view is this pontiff does not necessarily agree with women being ordained as priests. However, in the back of your mind, is there some sort of hope, if there is this groundswell of support, that it might happen during Pope Benedict's leadership?
I would find that incredible if it would happen. The church doesn't seem to move quickly, not in terms of decades, but in terms of centuries. But if he would make that kind of a change, I think that would be remarkable. And I think the women in the movement would say that's the Holy Spirit at work. So I would find that wonderful if he would make that choice.
And Sheila, what's your hope with Pope Benedict?
Well, as Jules said, things move slowly. We hope that the Holy Spirit will move the hearts and minds of everybody in the church to see that all are needed to help move our church forward. And we wait in joyful hope, as we say at Mass. We wait in joyful hope. And we continue to listen to the Holy Spirit and hope that we see it in our time.
And so I wonder, too, you know, Sheila, as a result of your op-ed, have you heard from anyone within the Catholic Church, whether it be, you know,
I have
bishop,
heard from
archbishop, or
hundreds.
How about within the Catholic Church in terms of that challenge of excommunicating you?
Well, as you might imagine, it was a very inventive lead for a piece so that people would read it. But yes, I've heard from a lot of priests who are upset. Imagine being there. Well, listen, imagine being a parish priest. It is such a tough job. You are probably over 60. You are probably alone in that rectory. You are overworked and underpaid and exhausted. And I bet if you asked most parish priests, they would welcome a change in the priesthood, because they're out there trying to keep parishes together and running from parish to parish in some parts of our country to say Mass. So I've heard from lots of priests and hundreds of people across the country, the letters, the emails. It took me about 10 days to answer all that mail from people who are saying, yes, we want change. And these people aren't crazy. They love their church, they love their parish, and they want to see the sacraments and God's love brought to everyone, and we need to have people to do that.
Judge Sheila O'Brien, filmmaker Jules Hart, thanks to both of you ladies. Appreciate it.